We are joined by none other than Daniel Kanyi, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Credit Info. Welcome to KTN.
Thank you.
And Mr. Kanyi, just help our viewers understand, what do we mean by this big term, credit reference bureaus?
A credit reference bureau is basically a risk management organization. It helps credit providers to manage their risk and to minimize their risk. The clients for the credit reference bureau is virtually everybody, either a consumer of credit or a provider of credit. For the consumers of credit, the critical thing is for them to understand why their credit scores rise or fall. Now, to do risk management, you need a lot of information.
Yes.
You need a lot of information from the credit providers and other sources. And for the credit bureaus to get this data, they have to be licensed by Central Bank.
Yeah.
So all credit bureaus operating in the country are licensed by Central Bank of Kenya. Our license was issued in the middle of last year.
Okay. And just following up on that, you've mentioned another term, credit scores. What does this credit score mean?
A credit score is a number. And in our case, in the case of Credit Info, the number ranges from 250 to 900. The bigger the number, the better the credit risk you are. So if you have 900, then of course you can get credit from virtually anywhere. If you have 250,
how is the ranking done really?
The ranking is done by use of a number of parameters. We look at the age of the person borrowing the money, their level of education, where they live, their employment, and all these demographics and other information comes into the algorithms used to calculate the number. It also relies very heavily on the history that you have for taking credit and paying credit back. So somebody who has consistently borrowed and paid back will have a high
credit score.
And somebody who has defaulted and has had problems paying back debt will generally tend to have a low score. Now, the score is calculated using both positive and negative information. Okay. So it is possible that you can have defaulted, but still have a good credit score, depending on what you have done subsequent to the default.
So what happens in the event for people who have defaulted? Is this information given to banks, or how is it relayed now to other financial institutions?
The Credit Reference Bureau is a mechanism for sharing information amongst credit providers. So the central bank has mandated credit bureaus to collect data from all the financial institutions and banks. So every month we get data from the banks and financial institutions on the new loans that have been created, loans that have been paid off, the payments that have happened during that month. And all this data is uploaded into our system. And every individual who has credit facilities has got a file on our system. So the information from the month is uploaded, and it has an impact on their credit score. So this is the information that helps us to create the score. Yeah.
Are there situations where we've seen people being blacklisted by banks?
Blacklisted is an old term. And we prefer to not use it. The term is actually adversely listed. Say, for example, if you have a loan with Bank X and you have missed a payment, 2 payments, 3 payments, usually you will be adversely listed by your bank, by your credit provider, and all the bureaus will have that information. And the reason is, if you go looking for credit elsewhere, the prospective new credit provider will want to check with the credit bureaus whether you have got that kind of adverse listing, and then make a decision on that basis. We never make decisions for the credit providers. We just provide them with the information.
So what has been the impact of this in the financial services sector?
The major impact is that it introduces an element of discipline amongst the credit consumers, because the credit consumers know that defaulting or not playing by the rules is going to have an effect an adverse effect on their credit score. They will behave better. They will make that extra effort to repay their debt or to not miss the repayments. This is something that ultimately is going to lead to a major change in the credit culture in the country, because it just requires awareness of what a good credit score means and what a bad credit score means, and to you as an individual and to your borrowing capacity.
And I know at Credit Info you are among the third in terms of the people who've been registered by CBK and actually licensed to provide this very important service. Looking at the sector, when it comes to people want to get on board onto these great services being offered, what does it take for someone to be done for a credit score? Perhaps Agina, myself, I want to come to your place and be done for my credit score. What does it entail?
The first we issue a credit report to you free of charge every year. Every credit consumer is entitled to a free credit report every year. You only pay if you want a second one or a third one
conducted.
Yes, you do not pay for us to do a credit score on you. The credit score actually exists already in our records, in our database, based on the information we've been receiving on Mr. Agina since we were licensed. So that is already there. If you come tomorrow to our offices, we will give you your credit report, and you'll be able to see what your performance has been on the you'll be able to look at your credit profile, see that everything is okay, and we actually encourage everybody to do this, because this is a free report, and by looking at it, you can tell whether there has been any mispostings on your accounts which might adversely affect your credit profile, and if there's such a thing has happened, then you can lodge a dispute or a complaint, and that will be rectified by your credit provider.
In the event that a consumer finds that they've been adversely mentioned in these credit reports, how can they get this rectified, especially if they realize that not all the information was correct?
There's a process, and as soon as you realize that there's something wrong with your credit report, you notify us first. You come to our office, you get a report, we encourage you to look at the report right there in our offices. If you notice something is not in order, you fill a small form to say what you think is wrong with your credit report. Then we take this up with your credit provider, because it can happen in many different ways. For example, the person at the bank may have misposted. Maybe there are two Ebe Aginas, and they've put an entry on the wrong one in error. And then we would take up that, and in consultation with the credit provider, we'll try and have that rectified. If it becomes a dispute that between you and the bank, then there is something called the Alternative Dispute Resolution Center. We do not encourage you to go to a lawyer or to go to court, because that would be a very expensive process. But the Credit Information Sharing Association of Kenya has established a center where people can go and lodge this kind of complaint and have the dispute resolved amicably between them and their credit provider.
I'm curious to find out the sources of information that you, as a Credit Reference Bureau, do link up with, because we have all manner of kinds of financial institutions giving out credit to borrowers. We have SACCOs, we have the banks, like you put it, the commercial banks, and we have also mobile platforms where people can also access loans, things like Mshwari or Kwa Jahazi. Do you also go to that extent in terms of getting information?
Yes. The Credit Bureau has capacity to hold a lot of information. Ideally, any information that refers to deferred payment should be held by the Credit Bureau. But of course, in practical terms, you move systematically. The Central Bank of Kenya requires that all the banks and financial institutions that it regulates submit data to the credit reference bureaus. The credit reference bureaus, in turn, have got the freedom. They are, according to the law, permitted.
Which law?
The Credit Reference Bureau regulations of 2013 is a very comprehensive law that that stipulates how the credit reference bureaus are licensed and how they operate, how they're regulated, what they can do and what they cannot do.
Yeah.
And this law allows the credit bureaus to obtain data, credit data from any source. So apart from the data that we get from the regulated institutions, we also get data from SACCOs, we get data from microfinance institutions, we get data from municipalities, and in our case, a lot of this data collection is ongoing. But to answer your question, we are allowed to collect data from all sources.
For example, currently, are you also getting from Okoa Jahazi, Mshwari?
Now that you mention names, I can tell you that we are getting data from Mshwari. We are getting data from Equitel. We are getting data from KCB and M-Pesa. We not yet getting data from Okoa Jahazi, but it could well be that that data is included in the data that we get from M-Pesa.
Okay, okay. And one of the other questions I would like to ask you as we wrap up our interview is, in the event that someone has been able to have a good credit score, how can they use this when it comes to negotiating for better interest rates when they are getting a loan? In the first place, are they even required to do that?
That's a very good question, because one of the reasons why credit bureaus are licensed is to assist in the expansion of credit. And people have not people have not been able to negotiate with banks thus far in terms of what interest rates, what terms they enjoy. Now, if you go to a bank and you're able to show them your credit report and show that you show them that you have got a very high score, the bank will consider you for concessionary terms, for better terms than somebody who has a relatively worse score. So that is essentially the reason why credit bureaus are considered a very effective vehicle for expanding credit, because then you can get more credit if you have better scores. Also, the credit bureaus enable people who are outside the formal credit sector to get credit scores. You know, farmers in the rural areas, small traders, can now are now able to have their data captured either through Mshwari or through M-Pesa or through Equitel, or through other, if they're not banked, or through other borrowing mechanisms, including even normal trade credit. We are able to capture that data and are then able to demonstrate that a particular individual who was previously unknown to the banks can be a good credit risk and can enjoy loans from the banks. Yes.
Maybe final question is, as Creditinfo, what is your outlook for 2015 in terms of growing and expanding what you are currently doing?
2016, we have just launched our products into the market, because we went through a phase of collecting the data that we need in order to provide a credible service to the market. Our prospects for 2016, or rather our target for 2016, is to ensure that we launch all our products in the market, and we have got a wide range of products. And we are very strong on automation, for example. So we would like to have as many institutions integrated and checking credit, making credit checks from our bureau in 2016. So our outlook for 2016 is bright, because we've just launched our products in the market, and many people are now having testing and checking and having a taste of our products and services.
Fantastic. Great place to end the conversation there.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming as well.
Thank you.
We've been speaking to Daniel Kanyi, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Creditinfo CRB Kenya, just sharing with us the business of credit scores. I hope now you do understand what it means.